So on November 24th, Thanksgiving Day for us Americans, it was announced through Phomos, which is a Korean site, that ROX Tigers, some of the players and management, were now open for transfer contacts. The players that were listed were Gorilla, Prey, and Kuro, the support, AD carry, and mid laner, as well as the two coaches, Nofei and Song. So this basically adds some foreshadowing, some confirmation of the ESPN report back in during the World Championship this year that the ROX Tigers could be looking to disband after that tournament. And as contracts expired, as we moved into the off season and their contracts were let up. This is something that people doubted just because the team came out rather vehemenously to deny these claims. Well, they didn't really deny them in some of the language. A few of the players did, but here we are. Suddenly, we're being eased into this world where, hey, so just letting you guys know, we're letting our players look at other opportunities, in fields, and let's be real, they're going to be offered quite a bit of money in some cases, and they're probably going to take those offers. But this is something that started up a conversation and something that people care about. Currently on the League of Legends subreddit, there's actually two posts about this topic that have reached the front page. One is a link to the Phomos article, and the other is basically like a kind of minor translation of it. But both of them are front page. You can tell that this is something that even the Western League of Legends audience gives a shit about. So people though are being a bit confused as to oh, why are they breaking up? They're such a good team. They're really good. They're they're friends. Why they can win. Why would you give that up? I don't want to see them go to other teams because then they're not going to ever get to win a world championship. So this is something that we just have to kind of briefly talk about and remind ourselves that these players are human beings. These human beings are going to have another 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years of their lives ahead of them to look towards, and that this foray as a professional esports player is a very small part of that huge life story. These are not actors. Professional players are not actors on the stage. Now we sort of treat them like that. They have stage names, as it were. They, and they compete for, money, for a career, for glory, but they also compete for entertainment. We like watching some of the best people in the world play a computer game and see what's possible within that one. We like to see storylines develop and rivalries build and those teams that clash and then to see what the outcome is. We like certain kind of players that play champions that we like or embody a certain play style, or they have a story behind them in their life that makes them relatable to us. There's a lot of things that we look towards and that we enjoy from these esports competitors. However, a typical esports career as a professional player is going to be something like 5 years. And that's probably really extreme. It could be shorter than that. Because the reason is that it's incredibly intensive work. When you commit to being a professional esports athlete, we'll talk within Korea because that's what all the players that we're talking about today are Korean. And I don't want to get into just, complicating it with other regions, so let's just focus solely on being a Korean athlete. You're esports player, whatever, you know what I mean. You are practicing 12, 14 hours a day. That's time that you're at your computer, that's time that you're focused on the game. This isn't time that you're going to take studies at college. This isn't time that you're going out and working a part-time job that's training you skills. This is a time that you're putting into a game, and that whole game is your life. That game becomes everything. You eat, sleep, breathe the game itself. And that's what it takes in order to become one of the best professional players in the world at it. And that is something that is inherent within South Korean culture. There's a lot of just, you focus on being the best you can be. You focus about being, victory is everything within esports. It's how successful you are determines how many fans you get. It's not like the West where you can, be a big personality and you can have that sort of following to it and you can make good money off of that one. In South Korea, it's all about victory. Now, of course, there are streaming personalities and they do get their fan bases within Korea, but within the esports field, if you want to get, people interested in you from an esports perspective, victory. You have to win, 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 win. So you either win so that you can make the prize money, you can get the attention on you, you can get the really good job offers and make a lot of money, or you find ways to be really good, really competitive, and you get other people interested in you, and then have them willing to pay money for you. You either be incredibly successful, or you find a way to make a lot of money. That's the best way that you get the most out of that career opportunity as you're putting the next 5 years, as you're putting about several years of your life basically into a pause-like state. So the ROX Tigers, yes, they are a good team. Yes, they're a team of friends. Yes, they're a team that's incredibly competitive during this year. But there's no guarantee that that is going to remain the same next year. With how many, Korea is going into its roster changes, teams are going to be picking up new players. Players are leaving their teams and are going to be replaced in some way. There's no guarantee that this ROX Tigers team, if it stays the same, is going to compete as well next year as it did this year, especially as teams, look to improve things or, change out coaches, or there's a whole bunch of variables. The field is not going to remain the same. It could be very well possible that if the ROX Tigers do stay together, that they suddenly become like a third place team, a fourth place team, and then they're not making it to the finals. Because you have to think of it this way, this year, the ROX Tigers, even though they've had very little title sponsorship backing, they've had very little infrastructure over the past 2 years, much considerably so less than teams like SK Telecom, Samsung, KT Rolster, these teams that have these huge sponsors and good financial backings. This is a team that's been scraping by. This is a team that at the World 2015 Championship, at least to prepare for it, they lived in an apartment with no air conditioning, and it was just the players and the coach. That's it, and yet they still managed to do so incredibly well. But during that time, yeah, it's cool that they stepped up and it's cool that they competed, but they're not making a whole lot of money. There's nothing coming from that, and that's nothing that they can take with them to ensure that they're going to have a stable, secure life after their career is over. That's how it is. Because as you're dedicating your life to playing this esports game, you can, when your career is wrapped up, when either you can't keep up with the long practice hours anymore, you're for whatever reason you're not able to compete at a high enough level anymore for whatever reason, you have to look into moving on, and you can do one of two things. You can find another way to be involved within esports. You can go into casting, you can go into an analyst job, a coaching job, you can try and field yourself in that regard. You could probably even go into streaming, just like use the popularity that you had as a professional player, go stream, make some money off of that one. However, I don't know how the economics of that for Korea work and how lucrative that is. I know that it's lucrative for Twitch in the West, but I don't know about Korea with like Africa TV and things like that. That's something I'd like to learn. Or you move on from esports. You figure out what you need to do. And there's also conscription in South Korea, so you have to find a way to, you're going to have to eventually go do that. You can't put that off forever. And you're going to have to spend that time as well. So at some point, though, you're going to have to make that transfer. But while you're working within this esports field, you've been working on a set of skills that aren't exactly transferable to a whole other career field. Yeah, you've worked on communication, but you haven't been learning about engineering, and so you don't know how to be, to go into that field. You haven't been working on, car parts and learning the structure of an engine, things like that, so you can't go be a mechanic. You haven't been learning how to handle customer relations and things like that, so you can't go into like a server job at a restaurant. You haven't been working on an education and getting like a bachelor's degree in anything, so you're not qualified then to look on to like a master's program or to look into sort of opportunities that require that level of education. Suddenly your job opportunities are limited to like minimum wage entry-level jobs. Think fast food, something like that. And that's, and not only that, but it's while you're considerably behind other people who didn't commit their lives to esports, while, people your age have gone to school, they've completed their studies, and now they're able to go up in the world. That's not really going to be something secure for you. And suddenly you could be set behind, and now you have to play catch up with the rest of the non-esports population that has done the education, that has been working in the workforce. You have to play catch up to that, and that makes you undesirable, and that can severely limit the opportunities that you have and the quality of life overall that you have. So in order to make sure that you can make that transfer, in order to make sure that you can, look to go to school and be able to afford that, your money has to be made as your athlete during your time as a professional player. That's the way I want to put that. So when the ROX Tigers players are getting, this year, think of what happened to the ROX Tigers this year. No one really cared last year for them. Okay, they choked in the spring final, they didn't make the summer final, they made it all the way to the summer final of Worlds, that was cool, but they couldn't get a title sponsor back at home. So they're not getting a whole lot of money. They're just not. Whatever prize money that they got, effectively. As well as, some sponsorship money. There has been some of that, but again, it's nothing like what some of the other older teams within South Korea have been doing. I'd be willing to bet. So this year, you go to the spring final, all right, you take second in that one, but then you win the summer final. Finally, you're a champion. Finally, you have that attention. Finally, you have that under your belt. You go to the world championship, you have all this publicity around you. Peanut, we know he's super sick. He's an adorable personality. Smeb, best top laner in the world. There's just a lot of eyes on your players. There's a lot of eyes on you. There's a lot of people that I like that, I want that guy to play for my team, because suddenly people care about you, people are interested in you, and people are willing to pay you a lot of money in order to have you play for them. And America is getting a lot of that money right now as we get all kinds of new investors coming into the scene. So you were successful this year, and people care about you and want you to play for them because you were successful. That's not guaranteed to happen next year. The worst thing that could happen to these players, all right, from a long-term standpoint, is that they stay together next year. They become a mid-tier Korean team because all the other teams have improved. They've gotten new players in. They've got, changed up their rosters a bit. And, and ROX Tigers players, let's say some of them start burning out. Some of them are over their peak, and they start just, not performing as well as they used to, because that does happen. So suddenly, now, you're not going to the finals. You're not going to the international competitions. You're not getting people interested in you. And, oh, Smeb, yeah, he was good last year, but then he decided to stay, and he didn't perform so well in 2017. So I don't know if I want to pick him up, honestly. It seems like maybe he's over his peak. I'm not so interested in him anymore. Maybe when he was the best top laner in the world, sure, I would have liked him on my team, but now I'm not so sure. That's something that could actually happen, and in doing so, you're jeopardizing, and that would jeopardize what the ROX Tigers, their livelihoods, because they didn't take the money that was there for them to guarantee that it's secure. Competing is cool. Having a great story is cool. Having friends that you hang out with and get to play the games with is cool. But that doesn't cover you for the rest of your life. That's not something that you can take with you. That's not something that's going to make up for the years that you delayed your education, that you delayed building up a job that is going to be able to keep you employed and, give you a salary for decades. That's not... You need to go build that up, and you need to have that safety net of money under you so that you can afford to go to school and work at an entry-level job. Just, you're losing money on it, but you have enough money that it doesn't matter. That's one of the big points it's going to be, to make sure that you can transfer for the rest of your life. So when you go into... Pardon the noise upstairs. So that's what they're considering. That's what they're focusing. And that money is there right now. Those offers are out there right now for them. And if they take those offers, yeah, they're probably going to go to teams that aren't going to be able to win a world championship. They're probably going to go to teams that could not even win, within their own region. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because they'll have the money that secures them for the rest of their life, and that's what they're going to be focused about. That's what they're going to be concerned about. Yeah, they still want to compete. Yeah, they still like to win. But they've done their hard work. They've done work, and they've been, we could say they've been undercompensated for it. It's very much likely the case, just because there just hasn't been money coming into that team. And so now you got to find a way to catch up to all the money that you've missed out on by, not being able to get other opportunities with teams that could pay you more or that have better sponsorship securings. You have to go make up for that. You have to make sure that you have money on you, so that when you do, when your career is over, and if you do decide to move on with your life and you go outside of esports and you go to casual observing, or you want to go to school, you have that money to support yourself, so that you don't place that burden on relatives, on family suddenly, and then your choice of being a professional esports player is suddenly one of regret, one that just rebalance for the rest of your life. Players want to be able to say, I did my time with it, I did some really cool things, I had a lot of great experiences, and I was able then to, when I was done with that, I was able to then move on fairly easily with my life. And that's what these players are going to be thinking about. There's just going to be, more opportunities or more money for them. Or in some cases, maybe it's just like, well, there's a better opportunity for me here if everybody else is leaving. Or, if these guys are going to be taking these really good offers, I don't want to stay here. I might as well just go out. I'm, early on in my career. I need to go, make a name for myself elsewhere. Things like that. So that's the perspective that these players are working from, though. And that's something that I think that the community can forget sometimes, because we just think about competition. We, we kind of put in this fantasy world where, it truly is for the spirit of competition. We forget that these players are going to have their own lives, that these players are going to have to move on, that these players are going to retire, and that in order to make sure that it's comfortable as possible, money just makes it so much easier for them to do that. Money is just security. Money is something that isn't going to be able to lose. Glory is going to fade. Someone new is going to come up. Someone new is going to get the attention. Someone is going to build their own legacy. The eyes are going to shift. A new title is going to come along. League of Legends could start, less money could be put into it in future years. And so capitalizing when there is money being offered to you now, that is going to be real. It's going to be something that you're able to sit on for a couple of years, that you're going to be able to take with you when you are done with your career, and that it's going to be something that you can then use to help you transfer to a different area of your life. That is what really is the most important thing, and that's what I think is on the minds of some of these ROX Tigers players. And that's something that I want everyone to sort of think about, that these players have their futures to think about. They have security, and they have real issues that they're going to have to work through. Those are my thoughts as to sort of why we're going to see this. And I mean, we've seen great teams in the past disband before. Samsung Blue, Samsung White, 2014 Worlds. People will laugh at them. Well, not laugh at them. People will kind of like be just, sad about the players' careers. Like, oh man, like Dade, he was really good, one of the best mid laners in the world, but ever since he went to LPL in China, he's just been really bad. It's like he's on retirement home. Yeah, it's sad for the storyline. Yeah, it's sad to kind of see a career just like take that downhill spiral. But they made a lot of money. They made money that is going to be able to help them through several years of their lives, hopefully, or cover a whole bunch of different things. They made, it might not have been like the most entertaining competitively. It might not have been one of the most illustrious grand stories that will tell kids for, future esports generations for years to come, but they're going to be able to make sure that they have comfortable lives, that they're going to be able to transfer comfortably, that they have that ability to sit on that money while they go develop the skills that they put on hold for, a different career field, for a career field that's going to be able to house them, not for the couple of so years that esports can, but for the decades that a real or a more sustainable path of life has to offer. And I think that's what we're forgetting in this case, and that's what is going to have to be happening. So, on this day, I think we do have to give thanks for what the ROX Tigers team has become, what it sort of represents to the community's minds. It's a team of like pure friendship. It's a team of some exciting players, and something that was unique. It was unique within the field of esports, worldwide, I think. And it's something that I think captured our imaginations, and it's something that was truly entertaining. It was something that was truly special to see within our lifetimes, and we could probably never see that kind of a team again, not necessarily from a stylistic standpoint, but from just like a background. There won't be a team quite like ROX again. I think it's safe to say. And while it's okay to be sad about them disbanding, I mean, I'm going to be somewhat sad as the players move on, because it was my favorite team to watch for 2 years. And hell, they didn't get as much championship trophies as I would have liked them to. But that's whatever. But ultimately, there are people in there on those teams that have a future to think about. They have their own lives to think about. And they have to make choices that are going to make sure that that is comfortable. It would be incredibly foolish for them to turn down all the money that's being offered to them, because that money's not going to come around again. And money is security in this day and age. And while it will be cool to see them stick it out another year and have like the meteoric 2017 be the year of the ROX Tigers, that is a huge gamble. That is a gamble, and that could not happen. And after working as hard as they have for 2 years, at some point, you're just not young enough to take that gamble.